All right, good morning, leaders, and welcome to the first Augusta Health Leadership Summit.
Today, we have an opportunity that doesn't always happen every day, to be together and to do two things. Number one, really focus on where we want to go together as a health system. And number two, to focus on building the muscle to get us there. And that muscle is innovation. Augusta Health is a national model of community-based healthcare. Our strategic plan, which once were mere words on paper, have been brought to life. And it's through your collective efforts that that has happened. The pandemic was really a catalyst to provide coordinated care for our community with our population health team and the excellent group of case managers that we have. We've doubled down on addressing disparities in health equities, expanding our population health and community partnership strategies. And the integration of our neighborhood clinics, the farm, and food insecurity initiatives, along with all of these partnerships throughout the community. Even behavioral health and mental health organizations are making a tangible difference in the lives of the people that we serve in our communities. And again, financially, we remain strong. Now, we're on the brink of this new era of innovation. What do we need to do to travel on this road ahead? Well, we need a commitment to innovative thinking. And this commitment is going to need to be essential, quite frankly, for the next chapter, the next strategic plan of Augusta Health. It's already starting to take shape, and we've got some examples of that, and we'll talk about those throughout the day today. But it's really only the tip of the iceberg. Our strong bond with the community has been our guiding light. And in fact, I would call it our superpower. We understand that the challenges our community faces in accessing healthcare, and we're determined to continue to remove those barriers and address the growing demands of an aging population and a fragmented workforce. We're not alone in this challenge. All 5,000 hospitals across the United States are working on these same challenges. These are national issues. But I believe Augusta Health's determination and our strategy and our focus on innovation will differentiate us and provide a path forward. We're going to lead the pack, and we're going to continue to be a national model of community-based healthcare, and we're going to be committed to innovation as our differentiator. And at Augusta Health, innovation is going to be more than just a buzzword. It's going to be our path forward. It's going to be how we approach business solutions. It's going to be how we plan for the evolving needs of our community and deploying strategic workforce initiatives and driving and fueling care redesign. Our goal is to create a delivery model of care for our community that stands out through competitive differentiation, embracing consumerism, and incorporating human-based design principles into our teams and services. Our mission to strengthen the health and the well-being of all people in our communities, it's not just a statement, it's a promise. A promise to preserve the essence of who Augusta Health is, while also propelling us into a future where individuals' health journey is valued and supported. Together, we are embarking on this transformative adventure. And I'm confident that with your passion, creativity, and dedication, that will not only meet the challenges, but we're going to redefine what it means to deliver exceptional care. Together, let's ignite innovation at Augusta Health. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Mark Kandersot, who is a VP and the Chief Innovation Officer at WellSpan Health, which is a very well-known health system in Pennsylvania. He also serves the dual role as president of Benjamin & Bond. Benjamin & Bond is a healthcare innovation consultancy that leverages something called human-centered design to solve problems, business solutions, and create opportunity. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mark Kandersot to all of you to talk to us a little bit more about why innovation is so important here for Augusta Health as well. Thank you. Mark?
So I want to tell you a little bit more about what human-centered design is. The difference with design is to find the latent insights. It's the things that people can't tell you are important to them, or you can't measure through their direct immediate behavior. They're things that are more intrinsic. And the way that we find those is through empathy. It turns out that designing solutions to make people feel specific things is a really powerful methodology. And it's the reason why most of the world's most successful consumer companies use design as their method for innovation. It's about intimately understanding the customer. And I think it's a little ironic, though, if we really think about it in healthcare, do we really know the people we're serving? Healthcare by design is meant to serve all people, and that's very important. But in the moment that you're caring for somebody, if you don't treat them as a unique individual, they can be left feeling like a number. In fact, we know that in healthcare, people that leave an experience feeling like they're treated like a number are 15 times more likely to tell people not to choose you for care, even if the quality is great, right? Even if the outcome is incredible. But if you leave them walking away feeling like they're treated like a unique individual, they're 18 times more likely to recommend you to a friend or family member. It's pretty powerful. So it tells us that understanding the uniqueness of an individual needs to be at the center of how we design care. Innovation is a word that has come to mean so many different things that it almost means nothing at all anymore. Innovation can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different organizations. The key is we've got to figure out what it means for you specifically and how you're going to use that and put it into action as part of your business strategy. So before we do that, let's do a little history lesson. How was innovation defined in 1960s and 1970s? Well, innovation at the time was really relegated to scientists and engineers that worked in labs to create the built world around you. It was a scientific process. And that's important to understand because innovation at the end of the day is still data and science-based. It's important. In fact, it was kind of the origins of how people thought about innovation in the 1960s and 1970s, but it was up to scientists and engineers to do what they wanted. It was up to them to decide what we needed as consumers. And what was interesting is across the pond in Scandinavia, at the same time, we had the birth of what was considered user-centered design. So this concept that the scientists and the engineers would invite potential customers into the lab and ask them if they liked the product. How novel, right? If we fast forward a little bit to the 80s, but really the big driving factor in the consumer world around innovation was about creativity. There was an explosion of creativity in the 80s, really specifically, though, around self-expression. So this idea that understanding that a consumer wanted to better express themselves was a really powerful business dynamic that took hold in the 1980s. And what the 1990s were really about, again, yes, there was continued technology, but if there's something you walk away from today is that innovation is not synonymous with technology. The driving factor in business strategy was this idea of becoming consumerist, how technology became important to each one of us in the way we lived our daily lives, right? So things like Home Alone with that handheld camcorder causes an explosion of home technology, of personal technology that was small enough to use every day and become a meaningful part of your life. It also is about becoming miniature. So we went from boom boxes in the 80s to Discmans and Walkmans in the 90s. Now, if we fast forward a little bit further to the early 2000s, now that same consumer technology has gotten even smaller. Really think about the consumer dynamics in the 2000s. And the key factors here that now add yet another definition to what innovation means is this idea of connectedness. So, Mark Zuckerberg in his dorm room at Harvard, the idea behind Facebook wasn't to become this multi-billion-dollar enterprise. It was a way to connect people. The other thing that's happened in the 2000s is this idea of democratizing technology. So, the iPhone was invented, and really, that's not the story. The story is the App Store. It is a whole secondary market that drives part of the US economy. So this idea of democratizing technology or becoming enabling platforms for other people to create value for themselves. And if we fast forward to the mid-2000s and now, we really think about the driving force of innovation as becoming experiential. So how do you take something that is largely commoditized, like healthcare, and turn it into something like an experience that people are happy to pay a premium for? Yes, we have to be careful about cost, but again, remember, the dynamics of the healthcare business model is that we have to cross-subsidize in order to be able to serve everybody. So who is that segment of customers and what are they willing to pay a premium for? And what the research tells us is it's a better experience. So that brings us today. Let's recap. Science, engineering, user-centered, creative, self-expressive, consumerist, miniature, connected, democratized, and experiential. It's no wonder it's hard to pick one definition for innovation. It's all of those things at a macro level. Now imagine that same story told over the decades here in Augusta County and what that means to the businesses and organizations that exist here. It could be anything, right? It's everything and anything all at once. And so what we have to do is unpack it. But what we did first was to listen to you, to your leaders, and to your community. It's all research-based, and then we analyze that and understand the themes that are unpacked from that in order to come up with what we think is the direction that's best for your organization. And in order to understand what you need to do for the future, we want to understand what made you successful getting to this point now. And we kind of viewed that as the themes that are the recipe for success to meet that aspiration. The first thing, one of those latent insights that we learned about you, is that a lot of people come to work here because it is an attractive professional lifestyle. The second is that you've been just what your community needed, right product market fit. I don't know if you feel it every day in your work, in your individual areas, but it's a pretty powerful dynamic in order to be right-sized in a market. It's what enables you to have a successful financial margin. And the third kind of theme or component or recipe ingredient to make you successful up until this day has been you have an endeared and engaged community. It's remarkable, actually, how much ownership your community feels over Augusta Health. They're proud of you. They feel like you are theirs. That is a very unusual market dynamic. It's a huge asset. Okay, so what happens if all of the variables that inform those three ingredients, those three themes for success, suddenly change? What happens if that generation of people who feel such a deep sense of ownership for Augusta Health move on, move away, age out, expire? What happens when you are now serving a generation of people who don't feel that sense of ownership? What happens when you are forced, because of market dynamics, to start to extract every ounce of value you can out of your core business model, which forces things like more standard work, more systemness, which can conflict with that idea of professional agency, right? Those culturally, not literally, but culturally. And what happens when competitors suddenly come into the market and upend your product market fit? So the reason why we are uncovering these things is because we believe that the healthcare headwinds that are happening nationally and locally here will change those underlying variables. The conditions for success will be different. It means you have to figure out how to make new money from the same customers or from new customers in a new way. It means that your core business model has to become ultra efficient while you identify and invest in and plant seeds for the next generation of products and services, if you want to maintain that commitment to the community. The other big healthcare headwind is inflation, right? So everyone's faced it at home. It costs us more to do what we do today than it ever has before, whether it's for our human workforce or whether it's for the supplies and components we need to deliver care. Everything is more expensive. So the inputs in that business model, not only is that business model getting shaken at its foundation, but now all the inputs, the costs in that cost-benefit ratio are completely out of whack. The next is competition. So healthcare is also the #1 segment of US GDP, and you better bet that entrepreneurs are looking at the healthcare industry as ripe for innovation, as ripe for creating value. So if someone like Amazon can buy a very small direct primary care offering for, was it $2 billion? You better bet someone like Amazon isn't making an investment at that level without a really solid plan around how to get value out of it. And that means they're going to compete for the same customers that you have. And second to last is technology. None of what we ever could do in innovation in healthcare is a technology problem. Everything is feasible. Any idea, I would challenge you, any idea you throw out, we can pull off. The technology exists, and there's technology beyond even what we think is possible. And the last, and I would say most important factor in healthcare headwinds, is the people we serve are changing right in front of our eyes. What they expect from us is changing literally as we speak, because their expectations for the service we deliver are not just informed by the healthcare industry, it's informed by all of their consumer experiences they have every day. It's easy to check yourself out at Walmart, but it's really a pain in the ass to check yourself out at the doctor's. It's easy to get what you need from Amazon in a snap and have it delivered same day or next day to your home, but it's not so easy to get the services you need to be well, or even worse, when you're sick, to overcome illness. And so we somehow in the healthcare industry have told ourselves that we're different enough, that it's more complicated, that we get a pass on having to really deeply meet consumer expectations. But what I would argue is that we have an obligation to understand those consumer expectations as informed by all those experiences they have every day, and we need to do better because the work we do is more important. We don't get to be worse because it's important. We have to do better because it's important. So at the end of the day, what I want you to take away from this is innovation is a method to view those problems as opportunities. So everything that we're talking about around innovation today is not meant to say that what has gotten you here today hasn't been what you needed. It in fact has. It was exactly what you needed to do, but starting today, you have to start to do it differently. So what are those new ingredients? We think that there's 4 things that are really important. The first is operational excellence. The part that I want you to leave with understanding operational excellence and the imperative behind it is because innovation and operational excellence go together as a flywheel. When you come up with some crazy new idea, how prepared are you today to execute that across your organization, to implement it across your organization in 2 weeks? In 1 week? The second is customer obsession. So in an organization where the idea of starting to more intimately know your customers as a critical component of business strategy, you can't go half in. You have to go all the way. You have to become obsessed with understanding the people you serve, what's important to them, but more importantly, using that knowledge in how you deliver for them. So customer obsession is number 2. Number 3 is whole brain thinking. So in healthcare, we are really, really good at using the science side of our brains, right? It's part of how we're trained, evidence-based care, standardized care. It's all part of that one side of our brain, so much so that I would argue the other side is atrophied, and which is really ironic because caring for someone is different than truly understanding who they are. And the 4th is to start to behave more entrepreneurial. How can you look? Entrepreneurs have this really interesting component of their DNA where they aren't scared of problems. They view them as opportunities, and they run at them. So, the thing I want to leave you with here is continue on your mission. It's not changing, that commitment to the community, but prepare yourselves and start looking to the future. Think about your jobs in the context of those headwinds and how those can become opportunity for you, and really excited to see what you come up with. Thank you.
Now, I'm really excited to introduce this next theme that we're going to talk about, and that is customer obsession. But we've been working behind the scenes as part of this engagement on doing something called a design sprint to develop an innovative business solution. And so we had to look at kind of an opportunity and a way that we could serve our community better. And we chose patient access. In fact, we then narrowed it to patient access in primary care. And we learned that we have to understand our customer, human-based design principles, and really understand how they think. So to tell us more about our first design sprint and the prototype that we're working on as it relates to access to primary care are Jackie Sims, who is our Administrative Director of Clinical Operations at AMG, and John Foley-Sherman. So bring it on.
So I want everyone to imagine that you are on a journey and you're about to take the first step of a healthcare journey that a lot of us take, which is trying to find a new primary care physician. What I want you to do just quickly is write down all of the questions you might ask when you're looking for a doctor. Everything you want to know about them, everything you want to know about how your relationship with them might develop. Just quickly write some of those questions down. We have to believe that a room full of as many civilians, they'd have just as many questions, if not more. And so we want to think about stacking together all of your questions and the answers to those and using those to find somebody that's right for you suddenly seems a lot more complicated than just looking up a doctor and finding the one who's going to be able to see you first. So Jackie and I are here to talk to you today about how Augusta Health is putting innovation into action using the themes that were developed by Benjamin and Bond. We started by trying to learn about your consumers, your patients, and your potential patients. So we used, first of all, desk research. So we looked at a lot of healthcare access data, which was national, regional, some of it specific to Augusta Health, some of it from other sources. We conducted about 26 hours of interviews with current and former patients in your primary service area and in your secondary service area. We also set up a booth at the Augusta Health Expo, and we conducted intercept interviews there to learn about people's attitudes and mindsets in regard to access. From all of that information, we gleaned some universal insights, if you like. So the first of these was that more so than in most areas that Benjamin and Bond has worked at, geographically, relationships are a proxy for quality more than reputation is. So for us, the takeaway for you all is, if you're going to design for people who haven't yet chosen Augusta Health, you should intentionally deploy the relational focus of your brand. Something else we learned, which didn't really surprise us, is that existing patients have a much easier time navigating Augusta Health than new patients. The reason this is important to remember, however, is because if you can find ways for new patients to connect with you, that can increase the perception that they have of the ease of use out of the gate. These may be two different kinds of patients that you're trying to design solutions for. Something else we found, which will not surprise those of you who are used to living in a rural area for a long time, is that speed to care mattered more than distance to care. People are used to driving long distances to get to the services they need when they're living in a place like this. The reason this is important for us to consider is because when you're offering options for where to get care, you can probably offer more than you might initially think. People are not going to balk at having to drive 35 minutes to get to a provider the way they might in another setting. So the last one was nearly all of your consumers find digital solutions to be desirable. This means you don't want to leave a digital strategy to chance. And of course, if you can leverage virtual options, you're going to be able to increase your access. So those were the general insights. To get closer to the granular level we talked about, we had to build Augusta Health's personas. So personas are a consumer research tool that's used in a variety of industries, and it helps people better understand and design products for their consumers. So let's meet them. The first one we have is Mandy. Mandy is someone we call a nostalgic passive. She's a 46-year-old receptionist at a dental office who's very close to her sister, Angela, and she sees her once a week on Taco Tuesday. She has no children, something her mom comments on constantly, and she did break up recently with her boyfriend of 7 years. She's very easygoing and loves living in the moment. She also really appreciates living in a small town, bumping into friends. She really worries that she's going to slip through the cracks when she switches providers. But deep down, she is afraid of being belittled for what she doesn't understand about her own health care. So her access experience should be very simple and well-guided. She isn't expecting, she wants her provider to be nice and personable, but she's not expecting a personal relationship with them, not so important to her. She is somebody who is likely to disengage when facing difficulties with access. So this puts us on alert because that will put her at risk for complications later in life. So we've just talked about her brand associations. This is Mandy, everybody. Ava is our next persona. Ava is a service-driven task lister. She's a 52-year-old bank manager and a mom of two. Her daughter, Leela, is a sophomore at JMU, and her son, Liam, is a senior in high school. She and her husband, Eric, have just joined a gardening club to prepare for being empty nesters. She loves keeping a full calendar. She also really likes all the new shopping that's showed up in the area. She and her husband love the ocean and hope to retire to Charleston, South Carolina early. They come from DC, where they hardly ever had to drive anywhere. It's a pet peeve of hers that she has to get in the car to get everywhere. But her real pet peeve with healthcare, she cannot stand it when she doesn't get a timely callback or when providers write off her concerns. She has very strong customer service principles, and what that really means for her is responsiveness and consistency. So for someone like Eva, self-service solutions and clear, consistent communication are going to help us win her loyalty. So that's Ava. All right, next we have Derek. Derek is our confident pragmatist. He is a 36-year-old physical therapist who married his college sweetheart, Caroline. They have an 8-year-old, Abby, who just took the training wheels off her bike and who loves riding that bike around the neighborhood with her dad. He does want to take his work from full-time to part-time to spend more time with his family, and he wants to be more self-sufficient and is hoping that he can keep chickens if his HOA will allow it, and they won't, and he'll be very angry about it. He wants a provider who knows more than he does and who's going to get it right on the first time. He works very hard, does his job well, and he is a little personally affronted when other people don't put in the same amount of effort. He thinks that health insurance is a racket. What this means for him, though, is that it makes him motivated to stay in good health. So instead of just becoming cynical or skeptical, he says, you know what, this is a mess, so I want to stay healthy. Which he does. He's young, he's in good health, and so what he wants for his access experience is an efficient and accurate experience. He wants to be in the driver's seat, he wants his care preferences to be respected. He's not going to be our typical healthcare patient, but he is going to engage with services like fitness and nutrition. All right, next is Ray, someone we call a loyal regular. He's a 71-year-old retired mechanic who still loves fixing cars for his friends and family. He also really likes going for walks with his wife and taking his grandchildren fishing in the summer. He does have COPD, and he did have a pacemaker put in last year. He's currently rebuilding a 67 Chevelle. He can't wait to get on the road finally. He thinks, this will shock you, his grandchildren spend too much time on their iPads and not enough time in the woods. For healthcare, he wants all of his specialists to communicate with his primary care physician flawlessly because he trusts his primary care physician very much. He does feel like it's hard to maintain his health. He wishes he had everyone in the room all at the same time. He really needs a provider who understands him, and that will be key to helping him maintain his routine care schedule. This is because Ray is someone who is resigned to that access experience being difficult. I talked earlier about that mindset, how you feel about access being difficult. He's on the end of the spectrum where he says, you know what, if it's hard, I'm just not going to do it. And this gets in the way of scheduling his routine care. So this means his care team is going to want to take the lead in steering his access. Ray is married to our last persona, and that's Nancy. Nancy is someone we call a skeptical regular. She's a retired school teacher, but still goes in when she can. She loves tending to her massive garden, even though this does tend to inflame her rheumatoid arthritis and her allergies. She loves that she gets to babysit her grandchildren a few times a week. And she's hoping that this garden will be large enough and productive enough that she can open up a produce stand at the end of her street this summer. In her mind, the quality of retail has gone down. And she really doesn't like spending money on products that she feels she can make for herself better than she can buy in the store. Nancy has had some issues and some healthcare scares in the past. So this means she really wants a doctor who listens and helps her be proactive. She doesn't like it when doctors are closed-minded because she has ownership over her own health. This also means that she's more likely to explore other care options when she has negative experiences. So what you want to help Nancy do is stay proactive so she feels like she's running the show, she has your attention, because if she drops between the cracks, she will move on. These are the people you are trying to help. And there's more of you who have met them than who identify with them. And this is very important because the easiest mistake to make when you're trying to solve a problem is to solve it for yourself. We all have biases. It makes us human. We do tend to think, well, would I do this? As if you're the ideal consumer or patient. We're not. The reason to do the research to find these personas is so that we can all look around and say, wow, we've met these people. In 5 years, you're going to have different personas. Some of these people are going to stick around. Some of them are going to change because of their different experiences and care that has changed in that time. But you are going to have to refresh who your personas are. You can't just say, we know who they are, we're good, we're done. So when you're trying to solve a problem for a persona, that's going to put you into a very particular process that Jackie is now going to tell us about.
So after they did the research, we brought a group of about 20 of us to a workshop to talk about these personas. And then we ranked the top 3, and they are Ray, Eva, and Derek. And that makes up the bulk of our service area. After we got those 3 personas, we were put into 3 groups, and we were charged by Benjamin and Bon with each group to come up with some type of an innovative platform that would meet the needs of that persona. So I'm going to go through those now. I'm going to start with Ray. I was in Ray's group, and I got to say, I said, man, I got the hard one. What am I going to do with this? Ray doesn't like innovation. He doesn't like change. I don't know what we're going to do with Ray. So we talked as a group, and we said what the key factor for Ray is his relationship and his trust in his primary care provider. So we wanted to come up with something that we could present to Ray that would say, that makes Ray feel like he's not only attached and trusting with his primary care provider, but with the whole Augusta Health Network. The next piece was we wanted to put him in line from that website with a in-person or phone call with a healthcare coach to help him navigate through our system to find the right primary care provider and what services he needed. So that's Ray. The next I'm going to go over Derek. He's going to do his own healthcare research. He's going to come in with his own healthcare plan, and he's going to want to be a part of that plan and probably tell the provider what he thinks Derek needs. But he wants a provider that he can relate to and has the same values as him. So the Derek team came up with Augie. Get it? Augusta Health Augie. Who came up with that name? Was that you, Mark? Yeah, that was good. So Augie is a web-based online resource that helps match the patient with the provider. I call it provider.com, kind of like match.com. So he can look online and get a profile of all of the providers that we have in primary care, learn, and then at the end he can take a little survey looking for what he wants in healthcare, and that's some of those questions that you learned earlier. At the end of the survey, then he is matched with the top 3 matches in the primary care system that best match to him. And then our last person is Eva. Eva is strong on customer service. She wants strong communication. She wants something at the tip of her fingers and to be able to take care of it and get in and out of the office. She is a busy person. So this group came up with a phone-based app so that Eva could set up her primary care from anywhere. It's called We Got You. So with that, from We Got You, she would review all of the primary care providers, where they are, where the first opening is, and then be able to pick which provider she wants and online schedule and never have to make a phone call. So we needed to meet it halfway in the road, and we needed to find what was the best for our consumer base and where we are now within our community to meet the needs of most people. So we took Eva. We chose to take Eva, but tweak Eva and take the best elements of all 3 of the presentations to make a 3-in-1 prototype of Eva. So that's where we are now. So we're going to take the online scheduling piece to a navigator to help this person navigate, but prior to their navigation phone call, they are going to do an online survey, which is going to help match them so that when we go into that navigator visit, we can have a discussion about what your top 3 to 5 choices are based on how you matched. So the first thing the patients will see is, do you want to schedule a primary care new visit with us? You will get a time to meet with a navigator. Then the navigator will call the patient and review their matchings with them, go over opportunities, go over openings, see what all their healthcare needs are, judge whether they need to be seen now, and then they will see, are there any immediate healthcare needs that they have now that we need to have somebody call them about before they get that first visit. So they got the online touch that Eva likes, we got the matching that Derek likes, and we got the one-on-one contact that Ray likes. So we're able to meet the needs of those 3 personas.
Can we have a round of applause for John and Jackie? Thank you.
So, we discussed themes today, and we discussed 3 themes. Let's just kind of do a recap of what they are. The first one was entrepreneurship. And remember, we examined the intersection of competition and innovation, and how Augusta Health is going to lead innovation with a competitive framework, differentiating ourselves and creating that best experience possible for our patients and, quite frankly, for each other. The second theme, customer obsession, where we learned how innovative opportunities begin with understanding our customers' personas and what their needs are. The third theme we talked about today was whole brain thinking, where we explored how to engage our right brains and leverage the creativity that lives in every single one of us in this room. I want us to leave here standing up, ready for action, collaboration, and learning from each other. And I cannot wait to move into Augusta's future with each and every one of you. Thank you for being here today.